Good evening, chaps. Caught me by surprise there. I haven't even poured myself a beer yet. Just bear with me a second. I was in a bit of a race to get here on time to press the go live button, so dog needed feeding and so on and so forth. So excuse me while I just pour myself the first of the week, if we decide that the week begins on Friday. Cheers, everyone. Good health. As you've probably seen, tonight's stream of verbal diarrhea comes to you courtesy of Kronenberg 1664. It would have been Heineken, but there was a couple of substitutions on the grocery order when it turned up from Mr. Asda, so Kronenberg it is. Anyway, let's go and have a look and see what's in the chat, who was first in and who we've got in, so to speak. I see we had Mark Colonel in first of all, then Peter Nicholson, Johnny Random, Relaxing Meditation, who bought my Artist TC59 off me. Really happy with it. Cheers, mate. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, mate. Glad you're happy with the guitar. Then we've got Ian Clark and Grandpa Joe, and Steve Entwistle, Terry S, Dave Lewis, watching the cricket. Lost on me, I'm afraid, mate. I could wax lyrical for some time about how much cricket is a closed book to me, but I'll spare you that. Then he's got a new Burns 66. Nice one. Then we've got Amadeus Michael Palmer. Had a friend at Redcar Races today, won big. Nice one. Beers are on him then. Then we got Dr. Gomez 1. Who else we got? We got James Hunt, Craig Stamen, who's in London. He's in that there London tonight. Well, hope you survived, mate. Did you take your passport? It is a different country down there, isn't it? Mind you, they all say it's a different country up here, up north. Anyway, then we've got Terry Day, Sean House, and scrolling down, I see we've got, I'm presuming that's Professor Rold. Prof. Rold, nice to see you in there. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Maybe I'm just not very observant, or maybe we know you by another name. Anyway, then we've got Anton, and there's Farjon, and Wayne Smith, and David James. Lawrence Hastings is in, so's Phil, Paul Trainer BSC, and we've got John Ross, and 60s Man. And then scrolling down, we've got Phil B, Graham Reeves, Calby, and the Rocco Cat. There's Deco Dude. Rent to Kill is in. So is Wrexham Matic. And then we've got Michael Purcell, Thomas Mulvaney, Chris Ottowell is in, so is Savvy64 and Malcolm Spillett. Then scrolling down, who else we got? We got Stephen Hedger saying, let's put this one up on screen. Hi, John, been busy renovating a sad Squire Classic Vibe 60s Strat. Won it at charity auction for £175, so win-win. Fitted some Iron Gay Vintage 6TS pickups and all is good. Nothing like bringing a nice guitar back to life, is it? Then we got John Channing, reeled in 58. And who else we got? We got John Mack and Jag Records. Jag Records is saying, thank you for the Fazelin. Unfortunately, they're out of stock on most models I were after. And yes, it's Jag, not JARG. I thought it might be, mate, but there you go. Just keep checking the website, mate. They're bound to have them in at some point. It's a little bit talking about the Artist TC59 earlier, because those guitars are so popular. Understandably so. I mean, I didn't really kind of take to mine, but couldn't deny it was a beautiful guitar. They just sell out like that. So just keep going back to the website and they'll get them in at some point. Then we've got Jimmy James and Rob Baldwin, the Essex Cat, coming in there, and scrolling down. Jack Collins is in. And Colin Falcon, local lad near me, he's in. So's Fiend Tunes, and Nathan is in as well. There's the Time Prophet coming in there. Ben Allmark and Timbo is coming. There is in there rather. Stuart Young is there. So is Johnny. How are you, mate? And Cal Texper. Cool Cat is there, so is Pablo Hank, and who we got? Ian Mason, Gary Shaw, Dennis Flock, G-Man57, Anthony McManus is there. We've got Graham Campbell, Triple Distilled, and how am I going to pronounce this? G.R.J. Culpin. I suppose that's I can't think of any other way to pronounce it. I apologise if I've butchered that, mate. Then we've got The Lamb and Bella Bell 81. And who else we've got? We've got Triple X Paps there, Das Shaft, George Wall, and we've got Pete Shepherd and Nick Pilson and Pooh Ninja, and scrolling down to get this register done so I don't spend the whole hour doing it, basically. We've got Colm Cross and Mississippi Blues, Murray Music, Adam Sand, Neil Roberts, and I believe that takes us to the bottom of the list. If I've missed you out there, I do apologise. It is not because I'm trying to ignore you. It's just that I'm getting old and short-sighted, and you know, probably drink too much beer as well. Anyway, that is ice cold. That's been in the fridge since this morning, basically. I can't put it in the fridge when it arrives, because then it won't last till Friday, because the grocery shopping always turns up on a Wednesday, and if I've got cold beer on tap this time of year, it never makes the weekend. Anyway, let me tell you what I got coming up on the channel this week. As is usually the custom around these parts, we have got on Sunday that rather wonderful Black Beauty Les Paul that you saw. Was it last week? Was that when that video went out? I do these videos so kind of far in advance and not in sequence, and I forget. But yeah, I think that was last weekend when we looked at that that rather lovely custom shop Les Paul custom, and I said in that video that I would be pitting it up against this guitar. Oh, hello. Let's get back in focus. My camera's drunk. It's one ahead of me. Yeah, it's going to be pitted up against this, my rather lovely Les Paul tribute. So something from the upper echelon of the Gibson family tree, from something pretty near the bottom of the Gibson family tree, and we're going to see how they compare on Sunday. That's Sunday's video. Then on Monday, a guitarist that I don't think I've featured on the channel previously. I've done that many solos that I often lose track, but I honestly don't think I've featured this guy. Steve Lukather. We're doing a Steve Lukather solo. Probably, I think, his most soulful bit of playing. In fact, I'd go so far as to say I think it's probably my favourite solo of all time of his. It's not where he's kind of playing one of these where he's playing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It is, I think, one of the most beautiful guitar solos ever played, and it's certainly my favourite Lukather solo. And he's kind of channeling Jeff Beck a little bit on this solo. So if anybody has any ideas about which particular Toto song we are talking about, then let me know. It's off the album that you think it's going to be off. It's off the Toto 4 album. So a Steve Lukather solo from that album that sounds like he's kind of getting a little bit of Jeff Beck going on. I wonder what that could be. Also, we've got Maria Davies in, and anyone else new while I've been talking? Yes, Adam San. I saw Dave Simpson's video with his Les Paul. He's quite pleased with it, isn't he? So that's Monday's video. Then on Tuesday, Top 5 Tuesday, and this is part of a 2-part series about buying and selling guitars. So this coming week, we're talking about 5 tips, 5 things I've learned, sometimes through hard-won experience, learning to give you an opportunity to learn from my mistakes. We're talking about 5 basic tips to enhance your selling experience when you're selling a guitar on, well, eBay is what I use. I know some people use Reverb. I do have a Reverb account, but I don't know, it just seemed to be like there was a lot of hoops to jump through to kind of get it verified and what have you, and I just thought, I can't be bothered. So, yeah, 5 top tips for selling a guitar on eBay. That is Tuesday's video. Wednesday is, as always, a viewer's question video. So if you are, if there's anything that's on your mind, question-wise, music and guitar related, then you know how to get in touch. jrguitartuition@gmail.com, or use the contact form on my website, johnrobsonmusic.co.uk. Whatever you do, don't just put it in the chat, because while I'm kind of blethering away to the webcam like this, I miss loads of stuff in the chat. So apologies if I've missed anything that you've directed at me to this point. I will scroll back through in a moment. But yeah, Wednesday's video, viewer's question, all about blues soloing, about, how to do it, basically, how to structure a blues solo, and, how to kind of make sure that you don't run out of ideas. Really, that's the thrust of it. So that's what we're doing on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, I don't think this has ever happened before. You're going to see me unboxing a guitar that by the time you see the video, the guitar has been unboxed, reviewed, had comparisons done with it, and it's out the door and it's gone. It's that white Epiphone Les Paul Custom that I've done a couple of teasers about on the live stream recently, which I think I offered for sale. Was it last week or the week before? Anyway, it's gone, it's sold, and it's on to its new owner. So, you'll see me unboxing it. A little glimpse back in time on Thursday, because as I say, I do these videos a good month or so in advance. I think I'm about 6 weeks in advance now, which gives me a little bit of leeway. And yes, so there we go. That's what's coming up on the channel this week. Let's have a look and see what's been going on in the chat. Let's have a look. Time Profit, I find selling a guitar with a Floyd Rose helps. Yeah, not owning a guitar with a Floyd Rose in the first place is a good way to avoid stress. I see we've got I'm a 64 in there. No, not Rosanna. Not Rosanna. I will tackle the Rosanna solo, because the middle one isn't too bad. It's it's fairly doable. But if you do that one, people are just going to say, "Why haven't you done the end one then?" And that's why, because I haven't had my Weetabix this morning. That's why. That's a bit of a fearsome solo, but it's one I should be able to tackle. But I've got to think about time constraints as well. How much time am I going to put into doing one solo video? When, sometimes I'll get the odd Monday solo analysis that will kind of do pretty well. But often they're the ones that don't do so well for me in terms of viewing figures. The reason I keep doing them is because it generates content for Patreon, for my wonderful Patreon supporters. I know there's a few of you in tonight, so thank you, every one of you. So it keeps the kind of the value for money quotient going on Patreon, and it also gets the phone ringing or the email notifications pinging with people inquiring about lessons. But in terms of doing them just purely as YouTube videos, the Monday solo analysis videos, they do okay, and I enjoy doing them. But I always have to think, is it worth spending 3 or 4 days doing one of these videos when it's going to get below average views? So that is always a factor that weighs on my mind a little bit. Time Prophet is saying, analyze through the fire and flames, Dragon Force. I think you're talking to the wrong bloke there. As I say on many occasions, I'm just a fat, bald, kind of middle-aged blues guitarist who's managed to kind of, learn a couple of shreddy licks that I've dined out on for far too long now. All of the kind of twiddly legato stuff and the couple of tapping licks and one or two sweep picking things that I can sneak in to give the impression of, impersonating a fast guitarist. But, Dragon Force, that is, I know my place. Let's put it that way. And it ain't doing Dragon Force videos. I'll leave that to the likes of, people who can really do that sort of thing, really. Let's have a look. I'm a 640 says, ever tried the vintage brand Greeny Moor copy? I have indeed. I very nearly pulled the trigger on one not that long ago. My only issue with that guitar is that I don't like relic guitars, and the kind of Gibson custom shop-y kind of one is, I would, even if I had the money, I would think twice about that and probably, buy it anyway. But the relic job on those vintage Greeny Moors isn't a particularly good relic job anyway. I don't think it looks. My problem with relic guitars is that they look a little bit contrived and phony, and that is an especially contrived and phony looking relic job for the ones I've seen. Anyway, now I know it does come in a non-relic version, but that has like a really kind of heavy, thick, poly kind of finish on it. I just wish they would do the satin finish that you get on the relic one, but without relicking it. And then I would probably kind of put some new pots and stuff in it because, they're not the greatest pots. I mean, they're a good. If the relicking thing doesn't bother you, then the 21st Century Boy, or Aussie as he used to be called when he shows up in the chat here, he did a fantastic series of videos on how he used one as a modding platform and came out with a fantastic Les Paul. It was great guitar. So yeah, I've tried one and they're really nice to play. What I found with that and all other vintage guitars, this is why I mentioned the pots, the vintage V100 series Les Paul copies, is that they sound great when you've got everything, all the guitar's controls on full, but you start winding the volume down a bit to sort of clean it up a bit, and it just gets all a bit muddy, and so you'd have to change the pots and put treble bleeds in and stuff like that, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, for the money, they're a good guitar. It has to be said. Triple distilled, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, mate. The vintage lemon drop without the relicking, lovely guitar. Yeah, it is a beautiful looking guitar. It's just, as I say, it just seemed like a missed opportunity that they should have done that in the kind of satin finish without putting that heavy kind of gloss on it, which once upon a time, within sort of recent memory, really, I've said that gloss or satin, it didn't really bother me that much, but I am, in the last year or so, I suppose, I've got to the point where I am really kind of preferring satin. It was kind of neck and neck for a long time, but just I think it's because of I've got how many guitars in here? I've got with satin finishes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 out of my main guitars in here have all got like satin finish necks, and it is just something I've grown accustomed to, I suppose. Yes, let's talk about PRS. Let's talk about PRS guitars. Have any of you seen the new PRS Telecasters? We're not supposed to call them that. Every other YouTuber is kind of tying themselves in knots to say, well, this is obviously influenced by a certain guitar from Fullerton, California, and, made by a chap called Leo. And, they're Telecasters, aren't they? I saw a few videos today while I've been just sat in here pootling away and working. And, yeah. What I will say is that it's probably the first PRS I've seen where the bird inlays didn't bother me. That's been a bugbear of mine for so many years, and I've waxed lyrical about it many times, about how, you know, they used to do two things, didn't they? Used to have like the moon inlays, what used to do, which from a distance just look like kind of dot markers. You look up close and it's kind of the phases of the moon. I think that is just so fantastically tasteful. And you've got these big kind of gaudy, you know, kind of Liberace looking birds on the neck on some of them, and that's always kind of, I just felt it's just a bit vulgar. But on these guitars, they didn't bother me. But there were other things that did. Does anybody have a long enough memory to remember the original Shergold guitars from the late 70s and early 80s? And this is something that a lot of British designed electric guitars have in common, certain Burns models as well. They just have something of a slightly lumpy looking quality to them, which can give them, like in the case of Shergold guitars, a certain charm, I think. But these PRSs have that same kind of, just kind of lumpy, not quite in proportion look to them. That's just my first impression, as I say. And they sound gorgeous. I was watching Danish Pete kind of mangling one on an Andertons video earlier today. It sounds absolutely gorgeous. The was it the NF 53 and the Miles Kennedy one as well. You know, they sound gorgeous, but they look a bit lumpy. And can we talk about the elephant in the room with them? The price. I first saw that and I thought, yeah, it's going to be about the same as a Silver Sky. Now you go looking for a US made Silver Sky, and they're about $2,000. Some places have them for a little bit under. Some places, you know, it's a little bit over. But I'd guess they'll probably average out at about $2,000 street price for a PRS Silver Sky. These things are $3,000. You know, and $3,000 guitar, core PRS USA built top end core model, and it doesn't even come with a case. Yeah, that just sort of killed my interest stone dead there. If it had been a couple of grand or thereabouts and it came with a case, then, you know, I might have kind of been able to make that mental leap and, you know, kind of fill in the, you know, the application form for interest-free credit as you do. And kind of, I would have thought seriously about maybe doing it. But at that kind of price, and the lumpiness of the kind of the appearance, I just can't get there. But there you go. Opinions, please discuss. Michael Purcell is saying, I presume you wouldn't get a Steve Vai gem. No. Rob Bald, you can't get on with 24 fret guitars. I was always a bit like that, but then I've got my PRSE, the S2 standard 24. That, it's just, I don't know whether it's just the way the neck is. The problem I have with 24 fret guitars often is the fact that you lose your way above the 12th fret, but on that guitar, for some reason, I don't. Malcolm Spillett, a Shergold blast from the past. Let's see. Carl B saying, now the birds can't pull off the fur capes like Liberace. I often think of the other name I have for them is Footballers' Wives guitars. But yes, Jimmy James, I did know that. Paul's mum was an ornithologist, and that's where the birds come from. I get it. I just don't like them aesthetically. You know, so there you go. What you saying there, John Mack? Guitar. USA made PRS S2 standard for just $999 from Andertons, if anyone interested. Ooh, that's a good price. That is Well, let's grab it. This is, I mean, I did a video about this called the perfect PRS, because for me, it is. It's classy and understated. It's got something of the SG kind of vibe about it, with the colour and that black pick guard. And, you know, it's just, it'll do Strat tones, it'll do Les Paul tones, it'll do Telecaster tones. It's just, you know, a great workhorse guitar that is fantastically built. And as I say, you can, I picked that up used for the same price as a brand new SE. But talking about, you know, Telecaster style guitars, you know, then I think it's about time we did the weekly Blondie indulgent look. There we go. So if anybody's interested in a fantastic T-style guitar with humbuckers that is also an incredibly versatile guitar, then get in touch with Dan and get yourself on his order book. Fantastic guitar. Let's have a look, see what we got in the chat. We got new comments there. Can you get the S2 with P90s? Says Dr. Gomez. That's a good question, mate. I honestly don't know. And I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen an S2 with P90s. I'm sure people will be opening new browser tabs as we speak, and in fact, I'm going to do that now myself. PRS. Learn to type, you fool. PRS S2 P90. Is there any? Not by the looks of it, mate. Not. I mean, I'm sure if I dug, I'm not really doing a pretty deep dive here, but the initial results suggest not. So. It appears not on first inspection. Maria Davies is saying Blondie's a beauty, John. Yes, she is. You know, as I say every week, this is the Lucille. This is the run back into the burning building to rescue it kind of guitar. And oh, it's plugged in as well, but sadly not in tune. Time Prophet is saying, have I ever tried active pickups? I had EMGs in a Strat that I used from about 1990 to, 2003, 2004. That was like a guitar that played in kind of cabaret bands, blues bands, country bands, all kinds of stuff that I was doing at that time when I was gigging. So, yeah. I have tried active pickups. The only problem I had with the AMGs was that they didn't respond well to volume control roll-offs. But that wasn't really an issue for me at the time, because I had like a 3-channel, all singing, all dancing Marshall anniversary combo that where, you know, I had a clean sound, a crunchy sound, and a big lead sound, and it was just kind of stomp on the relevant foot switch to do that. So yeah, the main reason why I had EMGs in that guitar was because there's a guy on the circuit round here, which anybody from this area will probably know the name, Andy Power. What a fantastic guitar player. I mean, he can play country like Albert Lee. He can play jazz like Wes Montgomery. He can play neoclassical metal like Yngwie, and sometimes all together in the same solo. What a player. Anyway, I saw his band playing one night, and I didn't know him. This is how I got to know him, but I just struck up a conversation with him saying, you are getting the best kind of fat rock tone out of that Strat. How are you doing it? And he said, EMG pickups. And that was it. I was down to my local guitar emporium the next day, and I bought a set and threw them into my what was it, Fender Japan 60s reissue Stratocaster, and and they stayed in there for a good many years. But I think I've moved on from that now. I'm not really. There was a comment on a video that this week on the 5 guitars that make me curious video, where somebody said, "So you're not really a single coil fan, then, are you?" And it hadn't dawned on me. But no, I guess I'm not really. I like Telecasters, but you know, there weren't any Telecasters on that video that in terms of guitars that made me curious. So, you know, I think I'm more of a kind of a humbucker bloke these days, it has to be said. Let's have a look. Neville Ray saying, "Come on, Chaos." Only 16 likes. Come on, Chaos. Yes, I've done that myself, mate. The O and the P are quite close to each other, aren't they? Let's have a look. Excuse me, the chat has frozen there. Jay Aoyong is saying, "Blondie's definitely much better value for money than your new PRS T-style." Indeed. I mean, I would agree. You know, and better looking, I think. There's nothing at all lumpy about this gorgeous beast. You know, the only thing I will say is that Dan is ridiculously busy at the moment. So if you're wanting one of these, then patience will be a virtue. You know, and there will be at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, a little sister turning up for Blondie. Dan has, well, very, very kindly built me a guitar that I didn't solicit this. I didn't, you know, kind of mither him about it or anything. He just got in touch and said, you know, because of, like, you know, all of my kind of use of Blondie in the videos and everything, he's, you know, it's and raising the profile of his fledgling guitar building business, then you know, just to say thank you, he's built me a semi-hollow version, which is going to be a rather nice experience. So I don't know when that's turning up, but that is the thing with Dan, right? It's like, if he thinks, you know, that you know, he can spend another month or 6 weeks making the guitar just that 1% better, then you ain't getting it for another month or 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So you do have to kind of, you know, make sure that you kind of remind him that you're waiting for it. Michael Purcell is saying, "Would change the headstock and pickups on your signature, John." Well, fair enough, mate. I mean, you can do that. You can certainly change the pickups. You can spec it up with whatever pickups you want. I mean, obviously, that will be reflected in the price. The base model, the same as I've got, by the way, is 1,500 quid. So, you know, but you can spec it up any way you want. I'm not sure how Dan is, whether Dan is, you know, open to headstock changes, because that is something that is, like, you know, that's the kind of, I guess, the face of the guitar, isn't it? So, you know, but I mean, the headstock it's not something I lose a lot of sleep. The only headstock design that I really, there's a couple of examples. I don't like the big kind of CBS Fender headstock. I couldn't believe back in the 90s, I think it was, that when everybody had spent kind of ages saying what an ugly abomination that is, you know, it was like kind of and suddenly it became fashionable again, you know, and Fender started making that big kind of boat paddle headstock again. You know, I don't like that. And the only other headstock hang-up I have is the old style, or the not the old style, but the kind of the 90s style, let's call it, Epiphone Les Paul headstock. That with the kind of clipped off corners. I don't know. It looked okay on semi-acoustic guitar, like the Sheraton or the Dot or something like that, but it just didn't work on a Les Paul for me. It looked out of place. So Jay Aoyong is saying, "Why not do an interview with Dan?" We had him on the live stream. Oh God, ages ago. Might be worth getting him on again. and rattling his cage. Rob Ball saying, missing the liquid Dutchman. Where's big Hennick Edwin? Yes, because Edwin is often I think Heineken should give him royalties, really, because he's always, he always sends me some money on the super chat whenever I'm drinking Heineken, which isn't at all connected to why I always order Heineken. I do like it. Rent to Kill is saying, how's the lovely Dougal doing this week? Yes, he's been a little bit of, he's been a little shit today, to be honest with you. I normally try and kind of not use profanity on YouTube, but that is the only way to describe how he's been today. He's just been a bit boisterous and a bit mithery and a bit needy. He has his crate downstairs where he goes to kind of chill out, and all you got to do is throw like some treats in there, and he goes in and has his treats and curls up, and usually upside down, and starts snoring. But today he's been a bit sort of whingy and whiny, and then you let him out, and he's whingy and whiny when he's out and wanting to be up around my neck. He does this occasionally, I think it's just the heat's getting to him. I don't blame him, because he's getting to me as well. Can we translate this one? I see we've got Tommy Peterson in there. I can tell you're talking about Blondie, mate, but I'm afraid I can't. I don't know how to translate, so bear with me. Rob Bald, indeed. Terry S is off. Nice to see you, mate. Well, we'll see you all next week, won't we? Let's have a look, see what's going on further. What have I missed while I've been blethering away? James Falconer, the best headstock without a doubt is the Telecaster. I got to agree with you. It's just simple and elegant, I think. And Rob Ball is saying that the headstock on Blondie looks like a Vox bedpan. I didn't know Vox made bedpans. But there you go. It's Deco Dude saying, John, I've got a new cat, a bald one, looks like a chicken leg. Fair enough. It's a bit random, mate. A bit random. Michael Purcell is saying, what's the problem with an expletive in the 21st century? There is the elephant in the room to talk about, isn't there? YouTube monetization. I mean, some people manage to kind of F and Jeff on all of their videos and all the way through them, and the fact that they've got ads running all the way through them seems to suggest that those videos are monetized and deemed ad friendly. But whenever you upload a video to YouTube, you have to fill in like a disclaimer saying that there's no sex or violence, there's no nudity, there's no mention of this, there's no mention of that. And one of the things that you have to tick a box to say is that there is no profanity. So I always like to err on the side of caution. That and the fact that, sitting here in front of a microphone and blethering about God knows what for, however long I do it for in videos, is it's a skill that I learnt me craft doing on a tiny, tiny little community radio station here in Redcar many years ago. I was asked to go in to do an interview because I was a local musician and they were interviewing local musicians, and somehow they got wind of me and asked me to go in, and then I ended up kind of blagging my way into a presenter's role a couple of weeks later. So I learned how to sort of do this really, and you know, the one big no was you do not swear. You know, you just don't. You cannot, you must not, you will not, and that's an end of it. So that was just sort of so deeply instilled into me that it's sort of you know, it feels natural to kind of talk on this now and talk naturally, but like leaving the 4-letter words, you know, that side of the door really. You off then, David Evans? Well, best wishes to you and your missus, mate. You know, and we're all kind of rooting for her, and you know, all the best to you and yours, mate. You know, nothing else we can really say. You take care of yourself, and you take care of your missus, mate. See you next week. Time Prophet is saying you're allowed to swear, but not in the first 60 seconds. It would be handy if they put that in the form that you have to, like the ticky box thing that you have to put in, that you have to tick when you kind of putting the video up. I don't know. Do you want to hear more kind of sailor type language in the videos? If I think a guitar is you know, worthy of such description, then I suppose I could. We'll see. Let's have another beer. Here we go. Oh dear me, this is going down really rather well this evening. It has to be said. This could get and will get messy. By about 10:30, I'm going to be slobbering on the sofa in front of old episodes of Porridge on BritBox, I imagine. On Road Again is saying, how did you end up having a beer with Albert Lee? There was, well, there still is, a very popular magazine called Guitarist Magazine. And in the late 80s and early 90s, they used to put on Guitarist Magazine shows that were like little mini NAMM affairs. I went to at least 2 or 3 of them. I seem to remember travelling down to London for one of them, which was at the Novotel in Hammersmith, I believe. And I can't remember if it was at that one or the one that was at Manchester University. I think I went to a couple there. But anyway, Albert Lee was demoing Music Man guitars. He hadn't even got his signature model with them yet. He was just playing the Music Man's Silhouette and extolling its virtues. And he was on the stand, on the Music Man stand, and all the big names were there. There was a Marshall stand. There was, I think there was a Gibson stand, a Gordon Smith stand, and loads and loads, all the kind of people that you would expect to see at a big guitar show like that. And the Music Man stand was there, and Albert Lee was doing his thing, playing with backing tracks, and then he did like a separate sort of demonstration with his band, Hogan's Heroes, in one of the kind of little theatre kind of areas, and great gig. And then there was a bar there. And I was in the bar having a beer, as you do, and Albert Lee was at the bar. And he just happened to be kind of next to me at the bar, and I kind of, when you stood at the bar and Albert Lee stood next to you, you don't waste the opportunity, do you? You strike up a conversation. So I ended up having a beer with Albert Lee. Nice bloke. Let's have a look, see what we've... I see we're still talking about the headstock on Blondie. Looks like a bedpan. Fair enough. Pablo Hank is saying, no, keep it family friendly. Yes, indeed, everybody flake, indeed. Yeah, it's not bad pouring, this 1664. The worst one was that Spanish beer, Madri. You know, Rob Bald, my apologies. Vox Mark 4 Mark 6 Teardrop, as played by Dave Wakeling of The Beat. Now, there's a blast from the past, Beat. I didn't know that was called the bedpan, the teardrop. I didn't know that. I knew that what was it? The Vox Phantom was often referred to as the coffin, wasn't it? Time Prophet had a beer with a guitarist from Diamond Head. Now, there's another blast from the past. They were a regular fixture back in the early 80s on the Friday Rock Show, weren't they? DMA. Whatever happened to Diamond Head? Fantastic new wave of British heavy metal band. Cylon Hybrid, I'm with you all the way there, mate. Went to a Total Guitar evening when they very first started. Got loads of their mags, old ones great, old ones great, new ones rubbish. Yes, indeed. That's something that's happened in the guitar magazine publishing. Well, I thought that was just me. I haven't bought a guitar magazine since it's got to be about 2016, the last time I bought a guitar magazine. And the reason I bought a guitar magazine back then, that was the first one I bought in a while as well. My wife had a little bit of a cardiac episode. She's fine, but she had like this little kind of. She thought it was a heart attack, but it wasn't. I can't remember what it's called, but it was something that gives the symptoms of a heart attack without being a heart attack. Anyway, she's rushed into James Cook University Hospital, blues and twos, Nino, everything, ambulance and everything, and I'm kind of like this, my heart's going. And anyway, she gets seen by the doctor and everything, and turns out she's okay. But they wanted to keep her in for like a good few hours to monitor and what have you. So I went wandering around to find something to read, basically, because I think I was still in me slippers. Hadn't took anything with me other than me wallet. And I went into a branch of W.H. Smith that was in the hospital and bought a guitar magazine, and I couldn't believe just how milquetoast and bland it was. Admittedly, my mind was on other things. Maybe I wasn't concentrating, but I bought a couple since, or looked at a couple since rather. And yeah, the days when a guitar magazine, usually Guitarist magazine for me, was an absolute must buy every month. I even subscribed to Guitarist for a good many years. So it just used to come in the post, but not anymore. Is it because it was the only information, it was the only source of guitar information that was available back in, I guess, the 90s and early 2000s? Is that because of it? Because now we're spoilt, with the internet and everything, and you can look things up, and you don't have to wait until the next magazine comes out and hope that the guitar that you're interested in is going to be featured and what have you. Is it because of that, or is it because they've just genuinely, they're genuinely not as good? I think it's the latter. So anyway, let's have a wee look, see what's been going on in the chat. Reeled In is saying there was a demo night of the new Fender Jerry Donahue Signature one night. The guitarist who was supposed to play with him was sick, so he asked for a volunteer. Would you do it? It depends how many beers I'd had, really. I suppose I would, as long as I'm not the one that's got to be the star of the show. If I'm just kind of strumming some bar chords in the background, then then I suppose I would. George Wall is saying Guitarist Mag just went round in circles. That is something that I used to say it was true, and it still is true. But now being on the opposite side of the fence of being a content provider myself, you do get to a point where you've talked about everything, and you think, well, what can I talk about next week on that particular slot? and then you look through your backlog of videos and think, it's 2 years since I've done a video on that subject. So I've got new subscribers in that time. They possibly haven't seen that video, so I'll do an updated version of it. That's how I rationalize it. So, you know, I mean, I do, you know, I mean, the whole kind of twiddly legato stuff that I've done, the tutorials that I've done about 3 of those, and I won't be revisiting that anytime soon, you know, because I think I've done it to death a little bit, really. But, you know, I get what you're saying. And, you know, I think the thing is as well, it's when you first start reading guitar magazines, it's when you first start getting into guitar. And then as you learn more and progress more, you gain more knowledge. So there's less new knowledge, there's less new information for you to discover. So it becomes like, you know, well, yeah, I already know about that. You know, well, yeah, I've read about that before, or I've already discovered that for myself. So I suppose there is that sort of element to it as well. I'm Not Creative is saying, would you be interested in a pair of burst bookers with quick connect for your Les Paul Tribute? I have a spare set in the drawer. I might be, mate. Depends on how much you want for them. Ping me an email, jrguitartuition@gmail.com, and we can talk about logistics and price and everything. And, you know, I will just say that I have recently been mugged by Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. They've done it again. I've got an old T-shirt in the drawer. You've seen it on the channel many times. It's my deep purple T-shirt. I've worn the death out of it. It's got holes in the back and everything. You never see those on camera. But I am thinking about, rather than just cutting up for rags, putting it in a jiffy bag and sending it to the taxman and saying, there, you can have the shirt off me back as well. You know, so it's, you know, depends on what your price is, mate. You know, we should certainly have a talk about it anyway. Let's see what I've been missing in the chat. Money Music is saying, I like guitars, but always thought its gear reviews were beyond aspiration for me, but back in the day it was a good mag. Yeah, I started reading it in about 86 or 87. And it was just this small little cottage industry magazine back then. This was well before it was bought out by Future Music, who also published Total Guitar, owned by Bauer Media and all that. And I think it was roughly at that point that it started getting a lot more corporate and bland. But, you know, I remember reading reviews of like Tokai's and, you know, I don't know if the brand is any relation to Harley Benton, but there was a big brand in the 90s called Jim Harley guitars, if anyone remembers them, budget guitars. They were reviewing those. And, you know, it was under the joint stewardship back then of Robbie Gladwell and Neville Martin, who, you know, and it just seemed to be much more human, and there was a lot of humor in the magazine back then, and it just became, gradually, it just became, as I say, after the buyout, it became more just like they were just printing press releases, really. Rob Ball's telling me, make your tribute a great. It already is a great guitar, mate. You know, it's Peter Nicholson is saying, what is the evening mouth-watering delivery tonight? It's spaghetti bolognese out of the freezer, mate. A batch cook of that I did ages ago, because we're not having the kind of special meal tonight. We're having it tomorrow, because 23 years ago tomorrow, I managed to convince an attractive Canadian lady to be my wife, and she walked up the aisle with me. Yes, indeed. June the 24th in the year 2000, dear me. As I said, you know, if you'd stabbed me on the wedding day, you'd have been out by now. But anyway, it's a wedding anniversary tomorrow, so we're having a posh curry. Not one of my homemade ones. We're having proper Indian restaurant curry tomorrow night. So I know how to treat a girl, indeed. Many thanks for your congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. It's as I say, me kind of within 2 years of my silver wedding anniversary. God, I must be old. I'm going to get that T-shirt, the one I mentioned a couple of times. It's weird being the same age as old people. I'll have to get that. Thank you, everyone, for your congratulations. It will just be a regular working day for me tomorrow. I've got lessons back to back from about 10 a.m. tomorrow morning till 6 p.m. tomorrow night, and I've got a Johnny Lang solo to film in the morning before I start doing that. So that should be that'll be coming up on the channel in due course. Timbo's saying, you taking it to the curry house on the weekend meetup. I don't think she really wants to be there with all of us boys. She's she often says, boys, like that, whenever we're acting like boys, So I think that will be an all-male evening of mainly male evening. If there's any ladies watching who are planning on coming, then October the 6th, Friday, October the 6th, get yourselves up to Redcar. Plenty of bed and breakfasts up here. We're going to have a little bit of a get together. We're going to get drunk and we're going to eat curry and we're going to talk rubbish, basically, which is what we're good at. And we do it every Friday. Love your T-shirt. Is that on sale on your merch? No, this one came from Amazon, and this I think was a gift from the wife as well. So I don't know what to make of that, but I should really update my merch. I haven't done it in a couple of years, really, because it's just, I should come up with some new designs and get them up there and start plugging them a little bit. It's just, again, it's something. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do it in my spare time. Right, let's have a look, see what we're going to talk about for the last couple of minutes. Dave Lewis is saying, do you fancy flipping the magnet in the neck pickup of your Larry Carlton Les Paul? Not really, mate, because you see, she's plugged in. She's not 100% in tune, but she's plugged in. I can already do that tone on this guitar. Just hit the tone control like that, and suddenly I've got. There you go. So I can already get that Peter Green tone. That's already there whenever I need it. Let's have a look, see what's going on. Malcolm Spillett says, I have one of your Hello Chaps T-shirts. My granddaughter thinks it's me. I need Blondie merch. Now, there's a good idea. Johnny Randomson, get someone a $5 to design some tees. Never thought of that. It's a good idea, mate. It's a good idea. Rob Bolson, have you kenned Johnny Lang? Well, yeah, I do know Johnny Lang. That Lie to Me album is in regular rotation on my listening. So there you go. Anyway, chaps, coming up to 59 minutes. And I'm starting to get hungry, and basically I need to go and kind of get rid of some beer. So we're going to wrap things up there. Thank you, each and every one of you, 179 of you, for turning up and watching a fat, bald northern lad talk absolute shite for an hour. It's been a blast, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.